So I sent an email to David and I said, I'm going up to the Twin Peaks Fest and, the last couple of years you've given me a little message to give to the fans. And so he said, okay, let me think about it. And then I got this email back, of course the top, David Lynch. Dear Charlotte, try this. In quotes. Does one chair lead to another? Question mark, close quote. Wishing you all the best, Charlotte. Have fun at the festival, like David.
You take me for a walk under the sycamore tree, the dark trees that glow, baby, in the dark trees that glow, and I'll be
And welcome to this week's edition of Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Bryon Kazaska, and beside me
is Ben Durant.
Ben, how are you?
I'm great. Well rested after our Twin Peaks festival that we were at.
Yeah, I'm still going through withdrawal. Like, I really wish I could close my eyes and go back to Washington.
Yeah, a lot of people that were there are kind of going through withdrawal. I'm still on a high. Like, I'm still just enjoying it and still just thinking about it and how much fun we had. And it was such a good time.
It was the most amazing thing ever. I can't even compare it to anything. It was just so good.
Right?
You're right. I had a blast.
Yeah, so we started off with Charlotte Stewart there. She was reading from David Lynch. David Lynch always shares something with the fest people there, and that was his little insight.
Yeah, and it's interesting. One chair leads to another. I like that a lot because I feel like we might understand that Major Briggs's chair is leading to Jack Rabbit's.
Chair?
Exactly.
Right.
What if there's a chair at Jack Rabbit's?
Maybe.
One chair leads to another. I like it. If you want to see the whole thing, the Q&A is posted on our YouTube page. You just go to YouTube, Google us, you'll find it. The whole Q&A is up. People are really digging it. We went Facebook Live with it. It was really cool, really something. Worth sharing. I mean, it's so cool. Everybody gets to see it.
Awesome. And so Sherilyn Fenn was in last week's part.
Yes. So the episode that we had to
it was our lost show.
Yeah, it was a lost show. We'll say
with
that.
our Sherilyn Fenn interview.
I lost it. I couldn't find the MP3.
We couldn't find it for months or whatever, but we've discovered it. We found it in our vault, and
I think it was on a thumb drive with the owl ring on it, and it just appeared out of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that was we probably could have had it out at the beginning of this series, but I like the idea with Sherilyn Fenn making her appearance. Why not bring it out? I think that was a great interview we had with her where she shares a lot about. We got to hear about her own personal life, and we got to talk about boxing Helena. We got to talk about Wild at Heart, and of course Twin Peaks. So we got a lot.
And in the interview, she does say the part that was written for her is amazing, and we all were bewildered and besides ourselves when we saw her appearance. We're like, what are we seeing here? And I trust what she says, that this is going to unfold to something to be really cool. And I think this week proved to a lot of us that our theories are somewhat correct.
Yeah. It's more than what. Yeah, it's not what it seems, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know how much that really showed in last week's show, but I didn't love part 12. I think
not a lot of people did.
I think a lot of it was Sherilyn Fenn. I mean, it's funny because I rewatched it and there are a lot of great scenes. I mean, I enjoyed the whole Blue Rose Task Force, and there were things I liked, but something didn't work for me. And I think when I saw Sherilyn Fenn, I thought she did an amazing performance, but I didn't like where she was placed and what was going on in that scene. And I think that I was reassured by other fans to say, "Hey, I don't think it's what we think it is." And now I'm almost positive.
Yes.
I mean, there's no.
Rewatching that episode before this one,
Mm.
I have to say, the episode was pretty good. Last week's wasn't that bad. I mean, I think because sometimes when you see it for the first time, in your initial reaction, it's like, "Oh God, what are they doing with this?" And then you watch it again, you're like, I'm like, that wasn't that bad. It had some fluff, but overall wasn't bad.
I think Lynch was fucking with us though in part 12.
You think so?
He was. We had Dougie Cooper getting hit by a ball, and that was it. And
That was hilarious.
It was hilarious, and I loved it, and we all laughed that we're watching it. But it was like, oh, that's all we're gonna get of him. And then Sherilyn Fenn, we've been waiting 25 years, and they knew what they were doing. They knew that we weren't gonna know what was going on, and I really felt like they were playing games with us.
But this is David Lynch, man.
And that's what he does.
This is what he does.
And I'm used to that.
But also, if we look at it in context of an 18-hour movie, if this was given to us Netflix style, none of us. We would have watched this unfold in a matter of hours and been okay with it. Well,
Sure.
Well, I don't know. I don't know the outcome, so I can't say if we're going to be okay with it. But we wouldn't be as heartbroken. But because we have to wait week by week, I think that heartbreak set in when we were like, "Is this what happened to Audrey?" You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if this was a movie, different story, and this is presented as an 18-hour movie, just kind of cut up at different parts.
Right.
So. Two different angles looking at this, so
and again,
yeah.
I rewatched it and it was better.
I think so too.
And there was things I liked about it. Again, it was just there was something not quite right.
Yeah.
Now saying that, we're about to get to part 13, which I like a lot more.
Yes, very good.
But before we get into that, I think a lot of our friends have been saying stuff like this, and I feel like it's our time, maybe at least for me, to say I feel like this series is not in chronological order. And I mean, there was a taste of that, and I think we felt that way, like, even from the beginning, when the first thing we saw in part 1 was Cooper and Not the Giant talking in that black and white scene. It felt like that could have been the end of the show, or it could have been somewhere else. It didn't feel
Is
like...
this the future or is this the past?
Yes.
Right.
But I feel like now, rewatching stuff, looking at stuff, is like, oh no, there is a lot of stuff going on here that is not in order. And here's my proof. I mean, I wanted to bring this up before we got into the episode or the part, because I think we're going to talk more about that as we go along in this part.
Yeah.
But here we go. So last week in part 12, Sonny Jim Jones plays with Cooper in the daylight.
Yeah.
And that's it. And before that, we had... I think it was I want to say part 11, we had the Mitchum brothers in the restaurant with Cooper. And in this episode, we now have them coming back. The Mitchum brothers are coming back home, and Jenny E is saying, "Oh, you've been out all night."
Mm-hmm.
So there's no time for Sonny Jim to be playing softball or playing ball with him. So I mean, that's a very simple little thing, but that's clearly out of order. That belongs somewhere else.
Yeah, it's... Sometimes I feel like these middle episodes has a lot of fluff and stuff that could have just been cut out and put in. I almost feel, yeah, you're right. That makes no sense.
But I think it's
how was he
purpose.
out all night? But then we saw him in daytime playing baseball.
But I think it's done. I feel like I'm beginning to feel like it might be done on purpose. Like there's some rhyme to reason for this.
I think it would be really cool if a fan, when this is all done, and they can come in and put together all the pieces. All the Vegas stuff,
right?
All the Twin Peaks stuff, like put it all in one timeline.
I wish I had time. I wish.
Oh my God.
I mean, I just don't have time with family and work and life. But I would love to try. Cause I love puzzles, so I would love the idea of like trying to figure out what is the order of this. Like, where does things go?
Yeah.
So my last point about this time and thing is that the whole thing with Diane, there's some scenes in some parts where she's wearing like a red shirt.
Yes.
And then there's
last episode was weird.
Right.
Like
and
that.
sometimes she's wearing a green shirt. And I think it was it last part where she started at the beginning of the show with a red shirt where she was about the whole task force. And then by the end of the part, she is wearing a green shirt
at the bar.
At the bar.
Yeah.
And then you go to other previous parts and she's wearing that green shirt in some scenes, and then she's wearing the red shirt.
Could that be continuity error?
It could be, or it could be that these sequences, like I feel like she would have been brought to the task force a lot earlier. Like I feel like she wouldn't have gone. They wouldn't have taken her out to where that vortex is until she maybe was part of the task. I feel like if we rearrange this, it would make more sense why she was included in the task force. I don't know.
Also, do you think David Lynch filmed all these scenes with these particular actors, and then in the editing room decided, well, I like this feels better here. This feels
that was
better
my
here.
first thought.
Yeah.
But the more I was thinking about it and the more I was looking at the scenes, the more I was like, no, I feel like this could be done on purpose. Like and as we talk about this part, we'll get into it more. But I almost feel like this is being done on purpose. Like this.
Can I add a third one? A third?
Sure.
To your theory? Because I like it. Bobby. So Bobby Briggs, we are seen at nighttime well, first of all, in that same episode, we're seeing him in the beginning with the silver thing with Hawk, and they discover with Truman, they discover that it's Major Briggs's piece. He left for him in the chair, yada yada yada. Fast forward later on, he's at the diner, right, with his daughter, with Shelley.
Yes.
There's a shootout.
Right.
And then in today's episode...
That's where we get into these. They'll be in the parts. Right. And today he's saying, today I found something of my dad. So it doesn't make any sense. So, yeah. So, and I wanted to think about... So that's all I have to say right now. But I think it's clear that these scenes are not in the right order. And I don't know why. I actually was talking to Jubal, which I'm hoping maybe him and Carl can come on next week, possibly from Counter Esperado.
Yeah.
And he has some insight that will go into this part. But one of them, he was saying how it reminded him of when we were in the Purple World there, which kind of could be the White Lodge, where it seems like Cooper's going forward, then going back. So it's almost like he's shifting back and forth. And could Twin Peaks somehow be doing that? And I don't know if that could even go to John Bernardi's whole Quake theory and stuff. But this whole idea that you're going forward, you're going back, you're going forward, and we've even seen that in, like, it seems like episode 29 with the Black Lodge. It seemed like Cooper was going back and forth in some ways.
That's true. And we know the Lodge has no time. And the way people are moving, like the skipping.
Yeah.
And we saw scenes. Glitches. And we saw that.
Static. I mean, there's a whole combination of things that
electricity
noises. And let's not bring it up now.
All
but
right,
when we get to the end, we have that thing with Big Ed. But we'll talk more about it at the end, which could be similar. While I'm thinking about it, I want to talk about Diane one more thing, and then we'll get into the part.
Sure.
I've been thinking that maybe Diane isn't having contact with Mr. C. I know it seems like it would because he starts to type stuff, and it seems like she's getting the messages, text messages and stuff.
Well, Albert's coming and saying, "Hey, it's pinging off the satellite."
Yes.
Yeah.
We still don't know who. I'm actually wondering if Diane could be talking to who claims to be Phil Jeffries. That's my newest. I've been thinking about that now. Because I still don't want to believe she's bad. So I'm like, what if she thinks she's doing the right thing? And she could be doing the right thing because Jeffries is part of the Blue Rose Task Force.
Mm-hmm. This is true. But we've seen the text, Mr. C. We've seen on his end too.
And fans have said how he does all capital and it comes, I think, or the other way around, but he does capital and it comes off lowercase.
That could be a phone thing because one's an iPhone and one's like a burner phone.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that's continuity error.
It could be. I know. It's so hard with the show. Is it continent?
Or are we overthinking things?
We could be.
Yeah. But I like that theory that it's throwing us off. That maybe Mr. C is getting these messages, but maybe Jeffries is getting them. And maybe there's an overlapping. Mm-hmm. And we're only seeing a part of the picture. But yeah, I like it.
So this is Twin Peaks The Return Part 13. It originally aired on August 6th, 2017. And the name of it is What Story Is That, Charlie?
Story number 2?
Story number 2. And so we start off with the Mitchum brothers and the girls and Cooper, and they're coming back to the office, and they're in the party train. It's really a fun little scene.
Yeah. They got the Congo line going.
Yeah.
Very bizarre. Tony, he's freaking out. He's hiding behind his desk.
Anthony, right?
Yeah.
I think, he assumed that the brothers would kill Dougie there. Like, he assumed that, like, he would trick them enough that, like, oh, this guy's been messing things up, and it didn't. Everything's coming out Dougie.
Yeah, everything's coming out Dougie, as our new saying has been lately. And, they're giving him, like, a new car, a watch, and all these little presents.
Now, is this ethical? I was thinking about this.
It's not ethical. You don't give your insurance company presents because they gave you money in your favor.
Yeah. Bushnell just seems so happy. That I was like, oh, they get all this.
This is Fruity Loops.
We get cars and.
Yeah, this is all Fruity Loops here. This is like a little crazy.
Mr. Todd Anthony contacts Mr. Todd.
Yeah.
Says he didn't get the job done, and then he basically has one more day to basically kill off Dougie, or he's gonna get killed.
I like he says he got one more day. How many chances does this guy get? Like, how many days? You got one more day.
Well, I think their thinking is that the Mitchum brothers were going to do the job, and since they didn't do the job, it's now up to you to do the job.
Yeah.
And that's why you can have one day to do it yourself.
It's too funny. So we know there's a couple of days on both in Vegas and Twin Peaks that take place in this one episode, which is interesting. We'll get into the day thing later.
Okay.
So Janie, she gets a knock on the door. And she's presented with a cool playscape.
Yes.
And a new car.
A new car!
I'm thinking if Cooper does come out of it, I'm going to believe he's not going to be home. And I believe he's just never going to come back. But she'll be set up.
Yes, that's what I've been saying. I mean, I was saying this way back that this whole thinking that she didn't give all the money to the ransom or the people that wanted the money.
Yeah.
And she basically says it in one scene where she says, "Oh, I'm saving the money for us," and then she also says about how like we're not going to get a new car, but we're going to save that insurance money, and we'll have to. But then she gets a new car, so even when she, it all kind of works out. But I do think she's in a good place if Cooper wakes up and leaves. She's got the money. She's got a nice car.
Yeah,
She'll be taken care of.
I do believe that theory. As much as I'd like them to be together, I think that when Cooper gets out of his stupor, he might not remember her or the kid. I think he's just going to be like, I have a mission to do. I'm going to go do it.
Yes.
And I don't think he's going to think of them at all. But I think they're going to have a happy ending. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Awesome.
Now, what do you think about the playground? Now, that's interesting. That scene took place at night, and there's a spotlight, which was weird, and they had a weird yellow like light banner going over it, and it was interesting.
So the spotlight reminded me of the original Red Room Dream.
Yes.
David Lynch had a whole thing about how the spotlight had to be on the curtains. And so, yeah, it was like almost like it also felt kind of like a circus or something, like some kind of. But it's like you're not going to set spotlights on this. But
it's so you can play at night.
Yeah, I guess so.
It was very interesting. I liked it.
Maybe that's what like rich kids have. They have these spotlights.
Spotlights and glowing
no.
furniture. Yeah, it was interesting. Do we want to go to Mr.C at the farm?
No, I'm going to keep staying in Las Vegas. I'll chunk it in Las Vegas. So the Fusco brothers are hanging out. Those are the cops there. They're just goofing around. They're trying to say, we got to go see Mom over the weekend. And they get back Dougie's prints. Like the analyst there is basically comes out that he has been escaped from a high security prison 2 days ago in South Dakota, and he's a missing FBI agent. And they all laugh, crumple up the paper, and throw it away. So it's so funny. Like we've been waiting for this episode where it's gonna put it together, and nothing turns out of it.
That was kind of disappointing. I was kind of hoping something would trigger alarm, but that must be a big mistake.
And this is the second opportunity that Cole and company should have had to connect what they've been doing to Las Vegas. The first one was the ring, where they kind of like, we found a ring in Major Briggs's stomach.
Yeah.
And you think that, we should look into that. And no, they kind of brush it off. And here's another opportunity where if they had just maybe contacted the FBI, they would have connected it that,
why?
Yeah.
It's just like Dougie Cooper is just like, no woman could touch him. It's very bizarre how this is unfolding with him.
Yeah.
And I love the screaming and yelling coming out from behind the closed door.
Yeah, it was so bizarre. Like, it was not, it doesn't seem to be anything, just be random.
But there's a woman yelling stuff. And I feel like it's just showing yet again the craziness that in the world. It was interesting. It was just like another peek kind of in line with the vomiting girl and stuff like that.
Right.
It was weird.
Strange for the sake of weird or strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Anthony then comes by and he says he's looking for Detective Clark, and the brothers tell him where he is. And so he meets with this guy, and he's a dirty cop, and he basically...
He knows Todd. He obviously
knows Todd, right? And he also has another cop friend. They're both in the alley, and they're probably the two dirty cops.
Yeah.
And he basically is gonna help him get poisoned. Anthony to get poisoned.
Even though he's mocking him.
He's mocking him, but
yeah,
he's mocking him. But he also knows that they all work for Todd.
Yeah.
And so he's gonna do this.
He's like, oh, he wants to poison someone. This guy's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting. I'm like, he's looking at the guard, and I'm like, oh, interesting. So these guys are corrupt with Mr. Todd, and if he come out and I'm sure they all know the Minton brothers too. I'm sure there's all collude,
right.
They collude with each other.
And then we get to where Anthony brings Dougie for coffee,
which is the next day.
Yes.
So we have a day 2 in this story arc. I'm keeping track of days now.
I can't keep track of days because I don't know if all the scenes belong together. Like
and in that one sentence we heard that Mr. C broke out 2 days ago.
Right.
So this would be day 3 with Cooper trying to be poisoned.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy to try to keep track of all the days.
I feel like I wish I had the time. I would like to put it all together.
I do believe that the days are unfolding differently than they are in Twin Peaks. I think the days are they're doling it out in a couple days in Twin Peaks. They're doling it out in those same couple days in,
But
Las
as
Vegas.
we get into this part, I'm telling you, there's things that happen in Twin Peaks that happened well before. So it's not like it's the same day. It's like there's a scene here that should have happened several parts before. And so that's why I at least don't think it's like your typical structured show. It's not like this is one like the old Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks. Basically, one episode was one day.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
And so that is not the case with this show.
It is daytime. It's nighttime. It is yesterday. It is today. It's all over the place.
We're in other dimensions that have no days at all. So Anthony sits Dougie down, gives him some coffee, and then Cooper Dougie goes to get some pie, and he poisons his coffee.
Didn't you think when he had the pie with the coffee he was going to wake up? I'm like, it's going to be the pie and the coffee combo.
I know you thought that.
Because he had the pie and champagne. Who drinks champagne and pie?
Right.
And I'm like, he needs the coffee. The coffee pie combo.
You're missing the donut, though. You need that donut there.
I think it's going to be, David Lynch did say, keep, the whole donut thing.
Yeah.
What if it is the donut? What if he has a donut?
He hasn't had a donut
No,
yet.
I don't think so.
Missing, right?
What do you think? Well, so he's looking at the pie, and Anthony puts the poison in, and Dougie comes back, and the woman's like, "I'll bring you the pie."
Yeah.
And he notices the dandruff.
Right.
And he's like poking at him, and we texted about this.
Yes. I like what you thought.
Well, I had another theory. My theories are this. Is this reminding him of when he was falling? But then I was like, oh, moonless night. Is it reminding him of like a sky and there's the stars?
I like this. I like the idea of the stars.
Why? Because he's poking at it's like this weird, like he's almost like...
It is like a pattern. Like he seems like he's poking him in a certain area. I mean, maybe he was just following the dandruff.
Yeah.
But it felt like, you're right, it felt like it was something more.
And we know this childlike Cooper is reminded very easily of different things. So I was trying to think back to the original series of what this could represent. And the only thing I can come to is like a sky, a nighttime sky with stars.
I do like the stars. I mean, that feels good. And then I was thinking when he was doing the homework or he was doing his assignments, he was following certain lights and stuff, and he would follow that. So I wonder if it's just the way that the pattern is, or the white dandruff.
Do you think he was writing something on his back?
That would have been cool.
Like he was writing like liar or like sinner or something.
Wow, I like the idea of liar. I know I like liar because do you ever play that game when you were younger? Like there would be people would write on your back and you'd have to guess what it was.
That's what I'm thinking of. Right. So what if
I like that? We have to rewatch that.
Yeah, like what if he was liar?
Because he was. I thought Anthony was just really bothered because he was touching him and kind of like hovering over him and saying, "No, that's your coffee. You think you're gonna give me the coffee? It's your coffee. You drink it."
Yeah.
Like, oh and that freaks him out and stuff. But I like the idea of what if he was writing
Right,
on him and he could feel that and he could be like liar.
Yeah. Well, what did he call him when he
He did call him a liar many parts ago.
He
when
called him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering. We have to rewatch it because I'm like, is he doing some weird massage?
yeah, right.
Yeah, but maybe he was writing something, or it just freaked him out enough, and it was like, oh no, I can't do this. I have a conscience all of a sudden. I cannot poison Dougie.
Yep.
Which
And
is nice.
and he takes the coffee and brings it to the bathroom, and he's crying and he's upset and he throws it out. And the guy's like, that bad?
Bad, huh?
Basically, is the coffee that bad? You have to go throw it out somewhere. I thought it was really funny.
A great comic moment.
And so Anthony confesses to Bushnell that, the whole thing. He confesses everything. And what I love is Bushnell says, yeah, I already knew this.
Yeah.
It was Dougie said everything. And then he says, I don't remember this, but basically says, Dougie even told me that it was two dirty cops. It's like, really? Did we learn that from the paperwork? I mean...
Well, we are led to believe that Bushnell deciphered what Cooper did. He was putting I think he was putting lines to names.
Yeah.
So there was a name, and he would be like a line going up, and some sort of symbol that would tell Bushnell what is wrong. Because Cooper hasn't said anything.
Yeah.
He just
he copies.
He copies people.
Everything, for the most part.
Yeah, I mean.
So, what I love about this is that I want to say this. I think Tom Sizemore. This is an amazing performance by him. This is his part. This is his. We don't call it episode, but this is his episode.
Yeah.
He had. I thought it was great. Here's somebody that he usually kind of a badass. In other stuff he's done, he's a
swarmy guy.
Swarmy, tough guy.
Yeah.
Here he
creepy.
breaks down. He cries a lot.
I felt bad for him.
Yeah, and Bushnell actually forgives him, and I love too is that Anthony says, he says to Dougie, "You saved my life, thank you." And I think this is our second time basically saying somebody, or actually you say third time, saving our lives. You had the slot. The lady
woman,
who was winning at the slots.
Yeah.
And then you had the Bushnell brothers.
Yeah, because they got the money.
Not Bushnell. I'm sorry. Mitchum brothers. The Mitchum brothers were able to get their money, and they kind of said thank you to Cooper. And now we have Anthony who's saying thank you. So that's 3 times now that he's helped people out.
But Tony is still gonna die.
What?
Todd's gonna kill him.
Okay.
Yeah, Todd said you got 1 day to do this.
Right.
And it was 1 day. Now, just because his boss forgave him doesn't mean Todd's gonna call him and be like, did you do it?
We have Chanel and Hutch, who are on the road
To Vegas.
Yeah. And they're talking about Mormons. And stuff. It felt very Pulp Fiction to me. I thought, having this thing. But they're on their way to kill 2 people, and I believe they're there to kill Todd, and they're there to kill Dougie, I think.
I think so,
I don't
too.
know if we're going to Anthony has anything to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out how this plays out. In this world of Vegas right now, everybody lives in this weird happy bubble, and nothing bad seems to be going on. So I like to see something bad happen there. Yeah.
But I like what Bushnell had to say is are you willing to testify against Todd and the corrupt cops? And he said yes. And I thought that was a nice way to hey, this is your way to make up for all the wrongdoings. And it's funny that the Mitchum brothers were supposed to be bad guys, and yet
they're goofballs.
They become goofballs, and they do have a heart.
Yeah.
And even Anthony, as bad as he is, he does have a heart. So it's
Did he get his courage, Ben? Going back to the Wizard of Oz?
Do I want to go back into the Wizard of Oz?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, he got his courage.
He did get his courage.
And they have a heart.
Yes.
I don't know. There could be that Wizard of Oz theme still going. I like that a lot. It's still my favorite. And I still think this. No, it's not a dream. But I still, I like the Wizard of Oz thing. If you think about it, Anthony got his courage to confess and willing to go against these bad, corrupt people.
Right.
And if we go with that whole thing, this could wrap up this whole thing now with these people. Now then we're going to have 2 worlds collide. We're going to have 2 hitmen come out from the outside world, come in. And I think this is where we could see the wake up of Dougie. Well, Cooper.
Next part?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
We keep saying that, but...
We always say it, yeah. So I think we can move on to Western Montana.
Let's do it.
Mr. C actually goes to the farm where Ray is.
Yeah, no, this is an interesting farm.
Yeah, right. It's really a warehouse.
It's a warehouse. Is this the same warehouse we meet Red? Because Richard Horn was there. And now Richard Horn shows up again.
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, we kind of jumped ahead in the storyline because you have these gang, and Mr. C is looking for Ray, and eventually we get to a point where the gang is looking at this big TV, and all of a sudden, who shows up but Richard Horn?
And he seems not that stressed. Like the last time we saw him, he's sweating profusely. He looks worried.
He's in good company.
And now all of a sudden, he just looks calm and cool. It's interesting.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I never would have thought about Red's warehouse because that seemed a lot smaller to me. But
it was shot in a way that you didn't see much of it.
But it could be, right? I mean, because we're trying to figure out how did Richard Horn get here? Like, how does he know these people? Right? And to me, my first thought is like, is he looking at Mr. C thinking could he be his father? Like, or is it or do I just think that?
I think you're just thinking. I don't think he has any clue who his father is.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows at all. I think
Are you my father?
Are they gonna have a Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader moment?
Richard, I am your father.
No. Richard gets his hand cut off.
Yes. So Mr. C is in here with all this gang, and they let him in because they basically say, "Hey, we've got guns and we're tough, and we can take on one guy."
Well, Ray was like that. The other guy was basically, no. We're gonna talk to him. I can't think of his name.
Resno, you talking about?
Yeah. He was like, "Put the gun away. We're gonna have a conversation. Like, we're gonna figure this out. We're
gonna settle this by arm wrestling."
Oh, what did you? It was a moment of disbelief there.
I was a little bit like out there, but I mean, in a way,
was fun, though.
Mr. C kind of came back and said, "Are we in preschool? Are we in kindergarten?" Like, like the idea, like this is silly, and like Mr. C is acknowledging that it's silly, but this is like it's almost like a gang's frat, like they're kind of like their thing to do.
And how willingly were they like, well, listen, this guy hasn't lost in 14 years. If you win, you can have the whole gang. You can be the new boss.
Yes, but Mr. C doesn't want that.
Yeah,
he just wants Ray.
But that arm wrestling scene, I thought it was going to be one and done. I love the way he played with him. Oh, this is very uncomfortable with my arm bends. How about let's reset? And I was like, he's messing with him. And the guy,
starting position.
The other guy, his face was completely red. I mean, it was good. It was a good scene.
I didn't feel comfortable when you did this.
Yes.
He did play with, and to me, it was kind of like, this is Lynch playing with us too. Like, this is how Lynch is. Like, Lynch likes to go from this extreme to that extreme and mess with us, and then say, "But are you more comfortable where we're here?" It was a great scene, and then for him to basically pin him and then punch his face, and it looked like he killed him.
He did. He
killed him.
He punched his nose right into his brain and killed him. And I think
One hit.
Mr. C has this superhuman strength.
And I still can't believe he's doing this without Bob. Like, is this doppelganger so powerful that he doesn't need Bob?
I don't think he needs Bob. This scene kind of solidified that he doesn't have Bob anymore.
I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced? That's fine. Okay, we'll get there. So he knocks him down. He goes, "Give me all your cell phones, and I want privacy." And I get Ray.
Yeah. So here's something like, why would he want all these cell phones? And here's something I'm wondering. I think he was, and I think it's clear that he actually was trading out his cell phones. So he was, if he's texting Diane or whoever he's texting, they can't track him. So he's just kind of like, I'm going to use new cell phones.
Here's your theory.
Yeah.
To Diane, if he's always having new cell phones, how the frick does Diane even know his cell phone number?
Right.
It's not like his cell phone number follows him. We've seen Mr. C with 2 cell phones, or at least 3 by now.
Yeah, right.
So if Diane's texting an unknown person, how is it always going to Mr. C if he always has a different cell phone?
Well, he would have to reach out to her first. Like, there's no way for her to ever reach out to him. He's always has to make the first contact.
Yeah, I guess.
Right? Like,
that's true. I guess you're right. It would have to be the opposite way.
Right. He doesn't probably want to reach out.
But didn't she say something like Vegas or, oh no, he asked, what about Vegas?
Yep.
Okay, you're right. So I guess he's got to reach out to her.
If that's
the case.
What's happening.
Yeah. Okay.
So before we get into, I still want to get into this Ray exchange. Before we
Yeah.
get into that, this scene, and it was great to see other people on Twitter say the same thing. Reminds me of this movie Over the Top. It's 1987, starring Sylvester Stallone.
Yes.
And he's he's a trucker who gets his son out of military school and goes to Las Vegas to arm wrestle. And he has his cap. And he turns it behind, and he's got to beat this big guy, and
It's the whole movie.
It's the whole movie.
Yeah,
but it's hilarious. I mean, that is kind of cheesier than what we saw in this part. But it just reminded me, like, you don't see arm wrestling
Movies anymore.
or
Yeah.
scenes or shows or anything. It's very unique. So that's where I went.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We met someone at the fest a couple weeks ago at the fest and at the Roadhouse, and I was talking to someone. I can't remember his name. He had a beard, very nice guy, and he was saying how Lynch was doing these small little homages to other directors and other stuff, and it was subtle that if you might not always get it, but he was like throwing stuff at me, and maybe this was just a little homage, just a little subtle callback.
It's not like
this.
it's funny because it's not like a Steven Spielberg or it's not even a Kubrick. I can't remember
Roadhouse.
the director. It's just a very kind of silly arm wrestling movie.
Yeah, but who would ever think we would correlate arm wrestling in Twin Peaks?
Yeah.
And now we are. It's
and
weird.
I never want to forget Mark Frost. Mark Frost has a part in everything. Too.
This could have been a Mark Frost thing.
Right.
Like, hey, let's do this. I mean, this hasn't been popular since the 80s.
Right.
Let's bring out the arm
Right,
wrestling.
If the group has to go up against Mr. C, how can we have fun with this?
Yeah.
Let's do arm wrestling. Yeah.
Because look at the alternative. He could have come up that elevator, and they could have just opened fire and killed him. He could have came back to life. We've already seen it happen.
Right. Maybe all the woodsmen would come out and take out them.
But wouldn't that have been cheesy if they just mowed him down and then he just stood back up like the Terminator?
Yes.
I kind of like.
It back.
I think the arm wrestling works.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. So Mr. C gets Ray and shoots him, and says, "Who hired you to kill me?"
This is good. Good information.
This is
Told.
great.
Yeah.
So he says it's Philip Jeffries, or somebody who's saying he's Philip Jeffries.
Yeah, he said Philip Jeffries is the one who sent me to get what was inside of you.
Yeah.
Yes, Bob. But the woodsmen have Bob, which we are.
Maybe.
Which
Am I the only one? People should write in or contact us. Is there anybody out there that thinks Bob could still be?
Well, we
in
physically
Mr. C?
saw a black orb with
Watch
Bob's
it again,
face.
though. Watch it again.
It's Bob's
though.
face coming
We never
out.
actually see it fully come out. We never see them actually holding it outside of his body.
Yeah, it was half out of his
Half
body.
out, but
they weren't
at
putting
the
it
same
back
time,
in.
he was. They're kind of rubbing around him as though they're restoring his wounds.
But here, I'll give you this. When he questions that, Cooper does, Mr. C, does have this weird look on his face. And I thought right there and then we were going to see some glimpse of Frank Silva. We were going to see something to indicate that Bob was still there. We got nothing. We haven't had anything.
I need a mirror.
Yeah, we have had nothing to confirm that he is or is not. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that we don't 100% know, but my theory is he's out.
Here's the thing: is I can see he could be out and in somebody else, and that intrigues me. And there are definitely a couple people that I could see where he could be inside of, and that excites me.
I will go back to last week's episode because we didn't get to talk a lot. We had a lot of guests on, and great.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
So I have a feeling that Bob is waiting at the Palmer house.
All right,
That's what I think.
we'll get there. We'll get there
Yeah.
when we get to that.
Or
scene.
the woodsmen are. They are waiting.
I would say the woodsman, but I definitely
We'll get
want
to that
touch
scene.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have Ray there. Ray actually has the owl ring. And so the idea was that Jeffrey says, after you kill Mr. C, you need to put this on him.
Question: why didn't he do this? Oh, because the woodsman
I
showed
think
up.
I think
he
he
was
got
frightened.
so
You're right.
freaked out.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
he got so freaked out by that he didn't
even dare.
Yeah, he
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
dare
yeah.
touch him. Or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
But yeah, that would have been the moment to do it. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. And then we do learn. I mean, after this conversation, he will get killed, and Ray will be wearing that, and he will be brought back to the Red Room.
And then we see the ring go back on the table, but Dougie had the ring, so there's two rings.
That's the thing, right? I mean, again,
Is there two rings?
I wondered that even in the Secret History of Twin Peaks. I wondered, is there more than one ring? I've been questioning that. I still wonder if there could be one ring, but we don't know the order of things. We don't know the time of when these things happen. Could it have been returned and then taken again? It's
Right.
I don't know.
Maybe it's one ring that holds no time. That maybe it comes into the real world. It could be multiple.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to
know.
say there's still one ring, but it's hard to understand how it would go from Dougie to Jeffries to Ray.
Yeah. We
So
don't know.
the other thing is it clarified that Jeffries, or who says he's Jeffries, actually worked out with the warden, the whole plan. That's because I questioned, like, how did Ray get a gun, and like why did they really release them, both of them? And
Makes sense.
it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, because why would they do all that?
And then Ray also gives the coordinates to Mr. C, but he says, "Can you really trust these coordinates?" And I think he's bluffing. I think he really probably did get the right coordinates. And I wanted Ray to put up more of a fight, or he didn't really have anything. He's on the ground shot. But it's like, oh no, this is not the way Ray should go out.
It's so weird. Here is Lynch making us almost root for Mr. C. Mr. C is the bad guy.
For the arm wrestle. Yeah.
But Mr. C is the bad guy. Ray is the good guy. We all like Jeffries. And Ray is on that side. It's weird. But the way they position these characters in this story arc, it's almost, because we love Cooper, it's weird. I don't know what to do. I'm like, wait a minute. No, Ray's on the ground. I should be rooting for him not to die. I'm rooting for Mr. C to win. I shouldn't be doing that, but I am. It's weird.
I think Ray, for me, is one of my favorite new characters for the series. I really enjoyed it because he kind of is a smart aleck. He's kind of a tough guy, and there's more mystery to him. Like, I wasn't clear, like, how much he knew. I mean, like, he doesn't seem like he knows everything.
Yeah,
but it's interesting, and like, how much is he involved? Does he know about the Black Lodge, or is he just somebody that's hired to do a job?
I mean, his dead body goes to the Black Lodge. Would he be alive?
Yeah,
after that,
I do wonder. Like, I was thinking the same thing. Could he still? We didn't see it, but could he still be? Could he now be there, stuck there forever? I mean, that's what happened with Laura. I mean,
yeah. That's what I think. Maybe we'll see him. Maybe we'll see him again.
So, what else? So also, Mr. C asks Ray, "Where is Philip Jeffries?" And he basically says,
"The Flying Dutchman."
The Dutchmans,
right? Or the Dutchmans?
It's just the Dutchmans.
The Flying Dutchmans.
And Ray says, "Not a real place," and gets killed, shot. And Mr. C, I know what it is.
Now,
so he knows what this is, even though it's not a real.
The Dutchman. I'm wondering, what if it's the same place as Jack Rabbit's?
Maybe, but he doesn't know how to get to the Jackrabbits, so I don't know.
Well, he knows how to get to the Dutchman's.
Right, I think they're two separate places.
Okay, they're two separate.
I think so.
What if the Dutchman's and Jackrabbits lead to the same place?
Well, I mean, in some ways you could say that. I mean, with the principal, he seemed like his location there led to the same place with Major Briggs. So I think there's possible.
There's different portals that could lead to the Red Room or the Black Lodge or wherever.
It's quite possible.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the double R scenes?
Yeah.
So we have two of them. We have one with Becky and Shelley, and we have one with Bobby Briggs.
Yeah, Becky and Shelley. Here's another thing. This is Becky. Becky says Steven's been gone for 2 days. She's really depressed.
No, I want to say too, it's daytime here. It's the daytime at the double R.
And Shelley's like, "Why don't you come down and have pie, and
here's the thing.
I'll heal all wounds."
Right. So basically, she's crying to her mom about how he's been gone. He didn't come home. And Shelley's kind of like, "I'm busy," and like she kind of, in a way, she's about to blow her off and say, "Hey, I can't help you." And then she kind of thinks about it and say, "You know what? Why don't you come and have pie?" And that's a kind of a moment of love. And I actually do connect it to this other scene with Norma, but I think it's a sweet thing, a way of her kind of saying, "Okay, I want to be there for you." The thing is, I don't think this took place. I think this is another chronological thing. I think this happened before Stephen was with the Hayward sister there. So I think the order would be...
But he's been gone for 2 days. So I think he disappeared with the Hayward sister and has been gone for 2 days.
But she doesn't know what happened to him. So what I'm saying is this: if we're doing it in the order, he goes missing.
Mm-hmm.
She then finds out that he's with the Hayward, goes to the apartment, shoots the door. And then the other thing is, I thought that Shelley said Becky could stay with her. Like, so we had the whole, is your husband abusing you?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like, why don't you stay with me? That was the last thing we saw.
That's true.
So when I feel like she should still be with Shelley at Shelley's house. So for me, this scene is out of order. I feel like this scene should have happened before.
I feel some of these scenes overall could have been, like I said, deleted things.
Yeah, but I think they're purposely messing with us.
Yeah.
They're purposely messing with us to either have some kind of big payoff or to get us off, kind of like...
Make us feel uneasy.
Yeah,
about
uneasy.
Things.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I took from this is I love the idea that this pie brings love. Like I'm gonna make a nice big piece of pie and
Comfort food,
ice cream and whipped cream. And where this is heading, but we get into another scene with a double R.
Yeah.
Do you have something else you want to say?
Well, I was gonna say, if you go back to Dougie Cooper, the cherry pie.
Oh yeah.
It all goes back to the cherry pie.
Sure. And we had good cherry pie when we were at the fest, right?
The double R makes amazing cherry pie.
So the next double R scene is with Bobby Briggs. He comes in and he orders some food. He sees Big Ed. Yay!
I know. I was so excited. And not only does he see Big Ed, he sees Norma, and they're sitting in the booth we sat in.
Right, her booth, but she's been sitting in all the time.
We sat in that booth.
Our last day at the fest,
yes.
we were able to sit in Norma's booth, which was pretty cool, I think.
Yes.
It's kind of nice. Actually, and I love booths. I think all the other times we ate there, we weren't in booths.
We're at the counter.
Right.
Yeah,
so this was really special to be in a booth, and we knew it was Norma's booth.
Norma's office.
We should have asked for some paperwork. Like, so we can sit there and do.
Could I get a big stack of blank folders and paper, please?
Even when she's eating with Big Ed, she's got her paperwork there. Like, she just, like, that's all she does.
Yeah.
So they hang out for a little. Ed invites Bobby to sit down and hang out with them. And you've already brought this up, but he mentions about that his dad, he found things of his dad, and that they're working towards this. But it was today. Again, that's like doesn't make any sense because we had that scene, and if I remember right, we then had the whole double R scene where there was a shooting and he came out. So things have happened since that day that they found something.
Yeah.
So it clearly seems like it's out of order. Like this does not belong here.
Yeah, it was very odd. Very odd. But like I said, I also feel Twin Peaks is giving it to us. Yeah, it's like you're right. It's like a remix almost. They're giving us this weird order.
Yeah.
And maybe
I like it. I actually don't mind it. It's I like things that are out of order and try to put it together. And then this guy Walter comes in, and Big Ed and Bobby leave, and Walter and Norma hang out.
Before Walter showed up, Bobby goes, "Oh, I don't want to sit with you guys. I don't want to interfere." Yeah. And then Big Ed's like this, no, there's nothing going on here.
Yeah. It's like, what? We've had 25 years for you guys to get your act together.
And I'm like,
Ed and Norma.
Well, I was thinking, maybe they're not having a romantic, they can't be always having a romantic conversation.
Right.
I mean, if they've been together this long, they're just talking about everyday things.
Yeah.
But to me, this shows that maybe Big Ed still is in love with her. They're still not together. Something's still keeping them apart.
Right.
Because, then Walter shows up. They're like, "Oh, you guys are going to talk business. We'll move." And Big Ed, the way it's filmed, over Walter's shoulder, you can see Big Ed. He keeps peeking over. And it was kind of so sad. And then he's like, well, first of all, they kiss each other.
Right.
When Walter comes over, they kiss each other like on the cheeks.
Yep.
And it made me think about when Shelley all of a sudden takes off and kisses Red outside, and Bobby's watching.
That's funny.
I'm like, why?
Right. I like that. I didn't even think about that.
It's the same scenario.
So Ed and Bobby could have just shrugged at each other, women.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I didn't think that they both have women problems, don't they? They
still.
Both, yeah. And and Bobby comes in and it's like, "Hey, Shelley left already," right? So now this is nighttime at Double R. So they could have happened the same day. Mm-hmm. I still don't know, but it's interesting. He was kind of like a little down that Shelley wasn't there
because Shelley could have took off with Red because originally they said we're gonna go meet in our
but
place.
That's maybe that's a whole nother.
That was
part.
a night. That was a nighttime,
right.
And this takes place at night.
Yeah, but Bobby was there that night with the whole thing going on.
Yeah. So it's so bizarre. Yeah.
So Walter hangs out, and I guess they're doing franchise now. They have the whole Norma's Double R Diner franchise.
Wow, this was really? This is happening? So this explains why she's always sitting there doing paperwork.
Because she's got a multiple
A lot of pie
places.
recipes.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The funny thing is, so I actually, I think it was like last weekend, I watched The Founder, starring Michael Keaton, and that was a story of Ray Kroc, who is his story of how he created the McDonald's fast food chain.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting story, and like really he wasn't even like, there was a whole McDonald's brothers, and like he came in and said, hey, I just want to help franchise, and he actually basically stole the business from them. And part of the reason he was able to do well too was, they would have great milkshake, like fresh milkshakes, and he would have these instant packets that had no milk in them. And I actually worked at a restaurant back in the day that we started off having like, we would peel our potatoes and we had the freshest foods. And over a few years of working there, they started shipping in packed food already. That was it. But it's interesting. So this storyline with Walter and Norma, Walter's basically saying, part of the problem is your pies. Like, you use all these great ingredients, but like it's costing too much money. So if you would just use like other stuff, but she's saying it's all about love and it's about taking care of people. And that's kind of goes back to Shelley and Becky. It's all about love, and like we care about you, and we're doing it through food, but it's our way of love. And I think Norma doesn't.
Food is the key.
Right. Norma doesn't want to
sacrifice
that.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I like the correlation there because this guy could, he could be shady. There's no question he's shady. Like he's definitely, he cares more about the money than he cares about quality. Yeah, and
I think maybe it was Entertainment Weekly's podcast that they use the analogy. Could this be like the film industry or television? That like sometimes television, or they care about the movies. They care about the franchise, and they just want to keep making more, and it's never about the quality. It's about just pumping out. And
it becomes a formula, and not about the fresh ingredients and love. So original idea, or the same old idea.
Right.
And she has the original recipe,
yes.
where the other ones are having manufactured. And,
right. Yeah. Manufactured too. Right. We get
manufactured.
Dougie was a manufacturer.
Yeah.
But so I thought that was fascinating. But and she also mentioned how the Double R Diner's been here for 50 years, and she doesn't want to put her name on it because people have always known it as the Double R.
Yeah,
that was cool. Yeah.
And poor Ed's in the background looking, and then he's like, "Oh, we want to go out for dinner? Oh, I'd love to." And I was like, really? This guy?
This
what?
Guy's no good. Right.
What?
She, again, like not picking good people. These women are not picking the wrong guy.
Norma and Ed were in love. What the frick happened?
Right. Well, not clearly, but you do wonder, is Ed still with Nadine?
That's the question.
And this is a good segue to about Nadine. I mean, so
I don't think. Yeah, Nadine looks like she's living in her store.
Yes.
She's literally living in her store.
Dr. Jacoby drives by and sees in the store the shovel, his shovel.
Yeah.
He stops and he has to find out who has a shovel in right there in the store. And he finds out it's Nadine, and they have what seems to be a moment. They're kind of like happy to see each other. And remember, back in season 2, Dr. Jacoby was basically helping Nadine because she thought she was a teenage girl. So it's funny to see that maybe the last time we really knew it was this doctor-patient type thing.
And they mentioned about the last time they saw each other at the grocery store.
7 years ago.
Bending over to pick up a potato.
Right, and it was a stormy. What I love is that he has all this detail, so it was memorable to him because it's like, oh, I think it was a stormy day, and I remember you, and I remember getting a potato, and I think she goes, oh, and she's touched by that, and we saw the actress at the festival and stuff like that.
Well. We can share a story about that. She was there, and you, me, and Evan, our friend Evan, was there, and I said, well, we have theories about when are we going to see you and Big Ed, and I said to her, I feel like one scene, we're going to see a hand on your shoulder, and it's going to pan out and be Big Ed.
Did you say that? I didn't remember that.
And she's stone-faced, and Evan goes, I'm going to look at her while you ask her your theories.
And I said, don't bother her.
And then we did it. And I think one of our theories was, well, you and Jacoby get together.
Yes,
That
right.
was it. And she was stone
so cool.
faced.
I mean, there was almost a little bit of smirk, a little bit of smile, but she tried to. She did basically say she didn't say anything.
Yeah. And
I
Evan's
mean,
like, I think I see some sweats, like jokingly, but she listened and then just said it was great to meet you guys and signed my thing.
Yeah,
She's very sweet.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
But isn't that what's happening? I mean, it
Yeah.
seems like there's a connection being made.
Crazy love.
Right. And she's kind of like, she seems like she's been in love with him just by watching his show. And
Oh,
she
yeah.
says, can I call you Dr. Amp?
Yeah.
So,
It's like a celebrity to her. Like,
yes.
His
it's
persona.
Like she's the fan. Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
His new persona has helped her live her life. Like his motivation speaking or whatever you want to call it is allowed her to say, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm going to get my own store. I'm going to shovel my own shit and get out of here. You know, and I think that's
awesome.
really cool. Yeah.
So it was a cool scene, and you do think that
It's adorable.
They might make a connection. They might go somewhere. Who knows?
Dr. Amp, he needs his voltage. And I think Nadine, I bet you, I'll make a quick prediction. Do we see Nadine in one of these new videos? These produced packages
That'd
he
be
does.
hilarious if she was like
A spokeswoman?
She's now shoveling the shit out. I think that'd be good. Yeah.
Like he doesn't have any testimonials,
Right.
So if he could be like, I have a testimonial now,
Yes.
that'd be kind of sweet.
I like that.
I like
you know
that.
what? Here it could be a dual commercial. She could be selling her curtains, her silent runner curtains.
Yes.
And say, I was able to get my own business because I believed in shoveling the shit out.
Yes.
I think that'd be awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, so it could be
This has got to happen.
Go buy curtains and shovels. I like that. I think it's time for Sarah Palmer.
Oh God.
Yeah, this is a great episode. I will say, there's just one thing after the other. I feel like there was a lot happening in this episode, in this part, and there's just so many different scenes, and we got so much Twin Peaks. We got so much of the characters.
I think we're kind of out of the fluffy stuff right now. I think those 3 episodes were meat and fluff, and now we're getting to the meats.
Yeah,
meat again. It's like bam, bam, bam.
So Sarah Palmer is in her home watching a boxing match, which I wondered if it could be Bushnell. I wondered if Bushnell.
We all thought that.
Yeah.
Twitter thought that. Facebook thought that. Reddit thought that.
Right.
There's no evidence right now.
No.
I'm sure someone will figure it out, though.
But here's the crazy thing. It's on a loop. So it's like a few things they say, and then all of a sudden it repeats itself.
But before it repeats, you hear a crackle.
Yes.
An electricity noise.
To me, it sounds just like the Woodsman. It sounds just like how the Woodsman make that noise.
Yeah.
And here's something that Jubal brought to my attention. He said, so he's saying the vodka she's drinking is a different label. And I actually did rewatch it, and it is not the same label as the one she was
It's not the red label?
It's not the same vodka label.
Oh, wow. See, I thought it was.
I rewatched it, and
Both scenes in it, wasn't it?
Yes, I watched it today. I watched it. So they were 2 different vodka labels. There's red on both labels, but they're different labels.
Okay. Okay, so the red threw me off.
What Jubal's saying is this possible that this took place before she went to the market or the convenience store there?
I like that. You know why?
Yeah.
I can
Go for it.
I can throw some stuff at this theory of yours
Go
and
for it.
Jubal's, and now that you mention this, because this is something I was going to bring up, was the labels. I think, yes, okay. If we're led to believe this happened, and then she went to the store the next day, would make perfect sense, because there's something there. Clearly, in this scene, something's happening, something's coming out, something wants to come out. I want to believe her drinking is to mute the voices, is to
not deal with reality.
Yes,
or
to escape reality, but to take these voices and get them out of here by staying drunk. Now, it would make perfect sense that if this particular night she didn't have enough booze, she's losing her buzz, and if she's been drinking this long, it's probably her state of mind has always been this way. So she doesn't even know what sober is. This loop and all this stuff is happening, and it's seeping in, and the alcohol is just not cutting it, and she just can't drink enough anymore. And at that grocery store, I think she's kind of like sober, and she's having this moment of break, like she's breaking, and she's hearing voices, and she's talking to people in third person.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of in my life, I had a friend in high school who was a big time. He drank a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
He's going to go to college in Canada. he couldn't drink. He had to go do a test. And he said, I'm giving up drinking. That week, he was first sober, and he would drink a lot. I mean, he was always drunk. That week he was sober. I remember this. He said to us, he heard voices. He said it was scary.
Wow.
Because he didn't even know what sober was.
Right.
And I think of Sarah Palmer for 25 years, just drinking herself in a stupor. And now these voices are coming out. Like, there's probably not enough alcohol anymore. That's something so strong. It's the pain and sorrow and suffering is seeping in.
Right.
You know?
So I got an email from Rachel. Her husband has a theory. Her husband, John.
Oh.
And we kind of already touched on this, but I want to say in the last part, we see that Sarah, she's... so we're talking about this part here. So this part, she sees this boxing scene, and it's on this loop, and she's saying... What she's saying here is she thinks that it definitely thinks it's the woodsman, and she's connecting it to the one from part 8, where you have the woods. And so I think John is the one that's saying this. We couldn't help but notice the similarities between the looping over and over again from the boxing match and the woodsman repeating the poem over and over again. So you have that loop.
Yeah.
And that's perfect. I agree with that. I think that's awesome to have that loop. And it does connect part 8 to this part where you have that, and then you have that static and crackling, and it seems, something is happening here.
It's seeping in.
I definitely think, I thought when we saw part 12 and Sarah at her home, I thought the woodsman were there. Like, there was something in the kitchen, and said, oh, that was nothing. But I felt like, oh, this is the woodsman there.
And I'm wondering, because of the death of Frank Silva and Bob, we don't know yet, but if Bob had left Cooper, Mr.C, that the woodsmen are the new Bob. Will we actually see Bob again? I don't know. I feel like the woodsmen are the new thing, right? I feel like this is sort of their way of saying out with the old and with the new when it comes to this force. And I think the woodsmen are, it's like a universal force, where Bob was a local Twin Peaks sort of local evil.
Yeah.
The woodsmen are kind of like the evil all over the country.
Wow.
The evil over the world.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think? I kind of feel like the woodsmen are the new thing. Like, I feel
they are the new. Yeah. I think there's this whole. I think the top is the mother, the experimental.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's the bad.
Yeah.
And then we have the woodsmen that are kind of like the army. And then we have Bob that below that. And so if we're talking about the woodsman, and the woodsman had Bob, and so is it possible that Bob is possessing Sarah now? I mean, like,
that's another theory too.
Right?
That Bob could be in Sarah. That makes total sense because we know everything points to Twin Peaks, and we know Laura has to come into play eventually.
Believe that. And like, what better way? I mean, it's funny, when we first started talking about predictions and theories, we thought Leland would come back, and there'd be. And I hope still that we could have a confrontation between Laura and the father. But what if it could be the other way? What if we could have some kind of exchange? What if it's, we thought maybe Bob would be in Leland, but what if Bob is actually in Sarah, and it's actually Laura has to confront Sarah? And I never want to, I don't want to think this, but in some ways, I guess Sarah is wrong too for the whole situation. She
ignored it.
She ignored it.
Yeah.
She knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And she should have, as a parent, got her child out of that situation, contacted the police, or done something. And like, it's tough. It's tough. But I feel like she's to blame for what her daughter went through.
If you go back, and things are a lot different now. Not 100%, but things are different.
Things still happen.
But in the 50s and the 60s, you had the father who, if he was abusive or is it drunk, typically the wife wouldn't do anything. Everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Right.
And oh no, how? And I think that was like, Lynch likes to do the American dream, but then the grossness that lives underneath that American dream. And I think that was a sign of its times with Sarah, like, just smoking cigarettes and everything's fine. And
right. She's a home wife, right?
Mm-hmm. And I feel like, now maybe that's the pain and sorrow. Like, why didn't I do something? Like, 25 years of going, why didn't I step in? Why didn't I do something?
Yeah, so that's
She's
something to
living
think
with
about.
that.
It's something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do thank you, Rachel and John, for sharing that with us. I know I didn't read the whole thing, but I got the gist of it. That
Yeah.
they can definitely compare part 8 to this part with Sarah.
And it makes sense because
Yeah.
if the scene with her going to the liquor store would come next, she's breaking. Like
Right.
it seeped in,
Yeah.
and the alcohol's not doing it anymore, and she can't even drink enough to keep this.
Right.
I like that.
And it's interesting. The whole loop is on through the radio, the poem, and of course, in our modern time, television is more a way of just having this loop and this kind of.
And it was a fight it looked like from the 50s, which is interesting.
true.
It was an
Yeah.
old fight that just kept saying the same thing. We kept saying the same thing. So that's interesting as well.
Yeah, I don't know. She was on some classic television channel or
What if
something like
that
that.
fight happened the same time the atom bomb
Yeah,
thing happened?
I don't know. That would
What
be
if that
something, right?
fight was actually happening in Vegas?
Yeah.
While they were
Who
doing
knows?
this testing.
Who knows?
I
That's
don't know.
something. So we get another Audrey scene. And it's funny, I mean, I think we all assumed that this was going to be Audrey in this because it says,
title.
what story is that, Charlie? And the
Yeah.
only Charlie we know of is, I guess, her husband, Charlie?
Well, to go back to let's dissect this a little bit more, because last week, after rewatching it, I do believe when Charlie calls Tina says something's going on with Richard, because the look on his face, and he was just like, oh.
Not Richard, Billy?
No, I think Tina's telling him about Audrey's son, Richard.
Okay.
But that's why Audrey's like, you're not going to even tell me?
But, I mean, it seems to me that Tina says, don't tell her. Like,
Yes.
he says something about don't tell her.
Yes, yeah. I think,
Interesting.
okay, my theory about Audrey, and I want to know yours.
Yes.
My theory might differ. My theory is this. Audrey doesn't know about her son. She had a nervous breakdown. Something happened to her. She has no clue she has a son. Maybe they don't even bring up her having a son. Maybe she had the son and she had a nervous breakdown. She couldn't handle it, and they don't even bring it up because nobody said, "Where's the mom? Where's Audrey?" They just gloss over
Right.
her.
Truman goes to see Ben, and there's no talk about Audrey.
I think the whole town knows this. I think the town knows that Audrey's out of the picture.
Yes.
We don't even deal with the mom, and I think Audrey, it's a trigger. I think if the therapist / husband, I don't know yet, when he talked to Tina, coincidentally, Tina told him what happened, and then he was just like, "Oh, I'm not going to tell her. Don't worry." And then I think he's role playing with her, trying to get her through some stuff. But I feel like if he were to even say Richard, it might be a trigger that if they had done all this work to get her through something, it might bring her back. I have a feeling she doesn't even know she has a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your take on all this?
Right
It's
now,
heavy.
my theory is she's in a coma.
Yeah.
I mean, in the last part, she kind of stood in one place for the whole time. In this part, she can't decide to go or stay or go. She doesn't know where the roadhouse is. She can't remember the location of the
She
roadhouse.
doesn't know who she is.
She doesn't know who she is. So I do wonder: is she in a coma? Is she physically unable to move? And if she's physically unable to move, I feel like that because she could be in a coma. She's not awake. She's not alert.
So I Googled comas
Yeah.
after all this. And there's a lot of interesting stories that people have said about comas.
Can someone be in it for 25 years?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, it's possible that people be in comas for a long time, but here's the interesting I thought. She could be in a coma somewhere, and they could have a soap opera on TV.
Sure.
And she could be hearing
Invitation
it.
to Love.
Invitation to Love. She could be hearing the voices and putting herself in that.
Yeah.
I read a story about someone said the last movie they watched was like The Grudge, and they were in a coma, and they said it felt like they were stuck in a room with that grudge creature forever. So the brain might be on a loop or something, and people even said they would hear their parents talk. They would hear people talking in the room, but it was like a dream-like state. So, is Audrey stuck in a hospital somewhere? And
Could we both? Or you're right. Could she have a doctor there that's trying to get her back and trying to work with her, and she's hearing a doctor? And
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, right. I
Right.
don't know. So
And she
yeah.
brings up this line is this well, it says Audrey doesn't know where the roadhouse is, and then it says and I think Charlie says stop playing games, or do you want me to end your story too?
That's where it gets interesting. This is where it makes me think maybe it's not a coma. Maybe they have different role playing. They're
Yeah.
different scenarios. Yeah.
And then she says, is this the story of the little girl who lives down the lane? And when I first heard that, I think it's like, is this a kid story? And I tried Googling it. And it's like, it sounds familiar. Like the little girl, maybe just the way that the way it's structured. The little girl who lives down the lane. I don't know. But there is a 1976 film with Jodie Foster in it that's called The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And in this story, this girl by and large, she's kind of stuck in this home. Like I think she can leave, but she's here and she seems to be by herself. And there's this whole mystery about her parents, like where are her parents and stuff. And but it seems, I mean, it reminds me a little bit of that Audrey can't leave.
If there's a mystery about her kid.
And there's something more going on than the character's willing to say.
Do you know the premise of the movie beyond the? Because I don't know. I wonder if we knew what the secret was in that movie.
All right. I mean, 30 seconds, everybody, if you don't want to hear the ending. I don't know if anybody's going to want to see this movie. So the ending, I believe we learn is that her mother, I think, died, and then her father brought her to this home and then committed suicide. But he purposely wanted to commit suicide so that nobody would but he did it in a way like jumped off a cliff so nobody would be able to find the body.
Mm-hmm.
So she's been pretending that she has a family or her father's always on business and stuff, but all along she doesn't have any parents. She's all by herself.
Wow. Okay.
I think that's the ending and stuff. But we have these other characters that are kind of trying to take advantage of her in this situation.
I don't know. Interesting.
I don't know. To me, it's this idea that there's more going on than we're led to believe. So I feel like that's maybe the parallels between the two stories.
Yeah.
But it makes me think of a kid's story. I don't know. So there's a couple things like that she says. She also goes into, is this like Ghostwood here? And of course, Ghostwood is the forest is Ghostwood, and they also mentioned the Ghostwood project which back in the day Benjamin Horne was trying to get the land to basically, I don't know if he's going to do a golf course or he's going to.
Yes, he wanted to buy the land.
Right, he wanted to buy it. But that whole area of the forest is Ghostwood, so it's a strange thing for her to say. Is it like Ghostwood here? Like,
did she not know where she is?
Yeah, but like it's I mean, what is she? I mean, when I think of Ghost 2 is like. I don't know, like I don't know where I am. It's a phantom place. I don't know.
I think she's lost. I think the coma theory works, but also the role playing.
She's gone crazy, and maybe she's mentally ill. And
there's an issue there, an underlying issue, which I hope every week we get to find out what. I hope next week we get to see more. I hope we don't skip it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And so she wants to get to that roadhouse, and we, the viewers, get to go to the roadhouse.
And what amazing treats we were treated to, James.
Yes, we get the announcer again. He first came in when we had
the Nine Inch Nails,
and
now we have the James Marshall,
the James Hurley.
James Hurley.
James Hurley sings "Just You and I."
Yeah,
same as old. Yeah.
It was great.
It was great. I loved it. I mean, James is cool.
Yeah. So. For me personally, when I saw it, I just yelled in my house. I just yelled out loud, "Oh my God!" Like none of us saw this happening, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really loved it. Did Lynch and these guys just say, James had a bad run season 2. We don't have to do much with this character, but we're gonna make him cool again.
It's crazy in a way that, like, I feel like it's the exact same song. Like, I don't think they've remixed it or done anything. It's the exact same song. But I don't know. Somehow it's cool, right? I mean, it's you know what helps? He's got an audience. He's got these crowds, and they're all digging it. And
he's got the backup singers,
right?
Maddie and Donna.
No, they're not there. They're wannabes, right?
Yeah,
yeah. And then we have this girl, Renee, who is, we go back to part 2. At the end of part 2, James has a crush on her. And she's watching this, and at a point she starts crying, and she's very moved, but she's moved beyond, like, I know this guy likes me. I almost feel like, are they dating?
It's a song for me, dedicated to
Oh
me.
yeah, dedicated to me. But like, she was very moved by that. Like, I almost was feeling like, are they in a relationship right now? I also, my theory was, is this Donna Hayward?
Yeah,
Even though the credits say she's Renee, I still
Yeah.
kind of like, it's like, I still keep wondering, are we gonna get a Donna?
I
It's
don't
like,
know. I don't think so. At this late in
but
the game.
I know, but if we were to get a Donna, this would make sense because this would be her song. This would be like the song that James sang to her and Maddie.
And Maddie, who is dead, so she's out of the picture. So
But
Donna
it was,
can have
it was a
them.
little odd. Like, I thought I could feel that she was connected to it and felt like it was being sung to her. But I think she went to a step
She
where
really cried a lot, man.
she was really moved by that. And I think at
Let's
one
be
point
honest.
she
You don't
kind
have to cry that much. It wasn't that,
It was good, but
it wasn't that good.
Aw.
This isn't Candle in the Wind.
Yeah. And so what I also thought about was that, like, okay, we're getting James Hurley. We're getting a familiar face who sings. We probably not that far off from getting Julie Cruz. I think we know Julie Cruz is supposed to sing at some point.
She's going to be the last one, man.
You're
It's
right.
going to be the last
But
one.
it's still kind of cool to finally get a familiar face that's singing here. On
I
the
liked it
Roadhouse.
a lot.
Yeah, I
Really
liked it a lot
liked
too.
it.
I the lighting. I thought he did a great job. You know, I've been really getting into these animated GIF things. I don't know if you ever noticed this on Twitter.
Yes.
I really love the idea of like showing stuff from the old and then bringing it in the new. And so I did do I did bring old James and new James together.
liked
and
it.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
kind of fun. And I just want to say, you know, I really recommend. I mean, everybody should own Brad Duke's Reflection book. I mean, that is an excellent book.
I still have your copy.
Yeah, and I bought. Yeah, you know, you probably can have it because I also bought the digital version.
I know. I got to finish
All
reading
right,
it.
but
yeah.
they have a great story about how they came up with Just You, and it was interesting to see that James Marshall had a part in coming up with that song. Like, it was actually David Lynch who's like, oh, you know, what kind of song do you want? And he's like, oh, I like a 50s song, and like, and what was that? Like, there was Just You.
Yeah,
Right? Or,
yeah.
They I think they started with songs that they already knew, and
It's
then
very familiar. You hear
Right.
it, your brain goes 50s, that kind of
Yeah.
doo-wop stuff.
And it's funny that, so I mean, and then in the studio, I think they basically had already done the whole recording of the guitar without James Marshall, even though James Marshall would know how to play the guitar. And I think because they had already done it, they basically had a key for him, and like to have him have to sing in that key, which I think took him a couple times because. You know,
It's very high.
It's very high, but I think it's a very memorable song. We all love it, and I think it was great to have that at the end there.
James is cool again.
James is cool again. And so the show ends with Ed at his station drinking some soup.
Yeah, well, he's drinking some soup, and this is a scene that has become quite the talk of social media.
And the crazy thing is, you just told this to me today, and I didn't even know about it. Like,
Did you see it?
I did. I watched it because I wanted to find out for myself here.
And it's creepy.
It's creepy, so we should let people know what we saw here.
So in the scene, Big Ed, he's looking, and he something catches his eye. He looks bewildered, and the camera the camera flips over. It's an over-the-shoulder shot of the cars driving by.
Yeah,
and
looking through the window of the gas station.
I'm like, okay, what is he looking at? And then it cuts back to him, and he lights a piece of the top of the matchbook, lights it on fire, and continues eating. I was bewildered. I was like, well, okay, that was weird. Online, Reddit users, people pointed out, said, hey, look at this. He's seen something. There's a reflection of his face.
I think maybe I did briefly hear somebody say they thought it was Bob, and I kind of shrugged it off, and I was like, whatever.
It is him.
It is him.
It is him still moving in this reflection.
He's
picking up the cup.
He's got the cup and he's still drinking it. And from the shoulder shot, he doesn't have it picked up.
Yeah, the shoulder shot when he's staring out the window, and his reflection is still moving, and he lights something. And I'm wondering if that was sort of like an indication to see what he was really looking at. Did that person, his reflection, light that up?
Yeah, I did watch it again, and like it almost looked like an edit. Like it was it almost looked like a strange edit. It's a very bizarre thing. I watched it several times. I couldn't make it.
See, this is why I don't get it, because if he was physically at this place, he was physically there, that would have had to been CG'd in or done in separately, intentionally. If this was a green screen, the over the shoulder shot, if that was a green screen and they were using footage of him drinking and that reflection got on there and then they just put those two together, it was an accident. But why would they use a green screen for that? It makes no sense.
It was either a strange edit or they were able to CGI into the glass. Like they were able to
That's what I'm thinking.
Right, not even a green screen. I think somehow they could just add in.
No, yeah, what I'm saying is if it was intentional, if it was an accident, it makes no sense how that would have been an accident.
After rewatching it, it does look like he's almost bothered by the glass, and then he kind of shrugs it off, and that's when he starts playing with the fire and stuff.
Yes, and you know why I think that? I'm like, he's a bookhouse boy. The bookhouse boys have always believed they protect the town from the stuff out in the woods. Right? We know this.
Yes.
We don't know much about them because we know.
I wish we could get more into it. I was hoping, and we still have a few more parts left. But,
Isn't there a bookhouse boy book coming out? There's a bookhouse boy book coming out.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yes.
It might be a notebook or something like that.
I think there's that. It's a real book.
Yeah.
I think it's a real book. There's something in there about this, but I'm wondering if he saw something and that was just something they do.
Here's another thing is that, so I mean, for me, this is all about time. Is it possible that there was just a time shift? That like the time shifts don't match? Like he was drinking his soup and like there's a flicker, some kind of glitch that made the time.
Yes, I think there's another glitch. I think that glitch could have happened the same time Sarah Palmer was having her glitch.
Possibly, yeah.
All these glitches could have been happening at the same time.
Or these glitches could be happening. It could be like the handshaking in, I want to say episode 27 of the original Twin Peaks, where people's hands started shaking. They didn't all happen at the same time, but it was like something is happening. It's
happening again.
It's happening again. That we're building closer and closer to this big finale in Twin Peaks. And the beginning of it is just flickers and just static and just sounds and reflections, maybe.
Maybe the woodsman being in Laura and the Palmer's house is causing
in the whole town. We don't even know if the whole town. We don't know.
And there's a lot of pain and sorrow happening in this town. People aren't happy. We're not getting happy endings right now. Everybody's still like in a state of turmoil. Like they're not where they want to be in life. We have Big Ed. He's not even with Norma, and he looks depressed. He's drinking a to-go soup. I mean, life isn't going that well for him.
Aww.
But I kind of believe this pain and sorrow is like it's going through the town. We have vomiting girls. We have all these weird,
we have itchy
Sparkle. We have Jerry Horn running through the woods. I mean, a lot of bizarre things are happening that are going to lead to something.
I think so. I was very, very happy with this part. I thought they did a great job. I thought they packed a lot into this show, and I can't wait for the next one.
Totally agree. So we'll go into community feedback. I want to say a big thank you to everybody we got to meet last at the festival. I would say last week, but the week before.
It's all blurred.
I'm having time shifts right now. I don't even know what day it is. But it was awesome, and thank you for everybody that talked to us, and we got to talk to, and we got to meet, and it was just an amazing experience.
It really was. Yeah. I mean, I'm like still just enjoying it. I'm still like
on your high.
I'm such on a high. I'm on a high that I still, I haven't even got all my pictures.
I know. I've been dying to see them, Ben. You're killing me.
I've been trying to collect all the pictures and share them with you, and I think we'll share some of them on social media.
Yeah. What I did was on our Facebook page, I did splits.
Yes.
I did the original locations and where we were, and a lot of people like those. And if you like us on Facebook, we have a lot of photos and videos from our trip. Please check that out. And we're very close to hitting 1,000 likes.
Awesome.
So keep liking us on Facebook. I'd like to hit 1,000. But Carrie wrote to us, I think last week. Carrie writes, "Thank you so much for broadcasting the recent podcast from the Twin Peaks Fest. Episode 12 wasn't my favorite, but listening to you guys with others made it more likable to me on the rewatch. And I think we've already stated that with us. Also appreciated the Cheryl Fenn interview as well, which thank God we got to put that out.
Yay.
Very exciting. You guys do a great job. I'm training for the Chicago Marathon this year, and I'm often driving to meet my run group in the morning. Knowing your podcast is waiting for me in the car is motivation to get me moving. Thanks again. And that's awesome.
That's really cool.
I'm glad we could be there for you. That's awesome. But you can like us on Facebook. You can message us on there. I'm always on there. You can leave comments. And like I said, every week I post a photo. We get the conversation going. And this one was a big one. People had theories, comments, like crazy.
There was a lot, and it was funny how many like film references I found that it could be related to. It was really cool.
Yeah, very cool. How's Twitter going?
Twitter's awesome. We've reached over 15,000 followers. Thank you. That's so cool.
That is so cool.
I love having all these different followers because we're always talking about different things, and I'm learning new things, and we're sharing, and it's really cool. And
it really helps us put together a really good show when we have all these different things that we can reach into. We have partnered up with TeePublic. It's a t-shirt company. You hear about TeePublic?
Yes.
Yes, very exciting. They do t-shirts, they do mugs, all that wonderful stuff. We actually have our own merch store. So very cool. Right now, as you're listening to this, in the show notes, there will be a link. You can click on that. It will take you to our merchandise store, Twin Peaks Unwrapped store for TeePublic. Starting from today till Sunday, we're going to have a little Dougie special for you. 30% off. You have to use the code TPU launch. That is TPULAUNCH.
And what kind of shirts do we have there?
We have our cool logo. And Andy Bentley made that. He was very nice
Andy.
to partner with us with creating some cool shirts. We're going to have some cool stuff maybe on a weekly basis. Also, we have our banner, the cassette banner.
Yes. Twin Peaks Unwrapped there,
Yeah.
I think they're very reasonably priced for a t-shirt. Like,
yes. $20.
$20. And I think with the sale, is it like $14 or something like
Yeah.
that? It's something like that.
Something
But it's like I don't know. I think
it's a good deal.
We got our shirts that had the same logo on. I went and made it like right before the fest, and I think it was like $25 each. So if you guys want to get the shirts, it's cheaper than when I got the shirt myself.
Yeah.
So
you want to support us? This is the way to do it. Just hop on there and buy a shirt.
I don't think we're gonna make millions or anything off this or anything, but
No.
like what we hope to do is, this money will go towards the show. Like that's what it is. I mean, we pay for storage for our servers. It would be great if we could if we ever wanted to go to some other fest, we could save up for that or other projects. It all just goes back to the show.
The link does live at twinpeaksunwrapped.com. That's where our show lives. There's a merch link right there. You can click on that along with our Twitter or Facebook. You can email us at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com with any comments, questions, or theories.
But we're not done yet. I think we're in so much excitement because we've been away and not in the studio that I feel like we want to talk so much that we are going to talk with Josh from the Red Room. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, guys.
I listened to the Red Room podcast for at least 3 years now, so it's kind of crazy to actually get to talk to you. I feel like I know you just because I listen to your show all the time.
Yeah, we finally get the good one on the show.
I am the good version, by the way. That's so everyone knows. I am the Roger Ebert of the pair of us, and Scott Ryan is, of course. Everybody has one. So one of you guys is the Siskel. We all know it. So hey, thank you guys. First of all, you put on a fantastic show. You're one of the 2 Twin Peaks podcasts that I listen to every single week. So thank you for doing what you guys do. It's a wonderful show.
Oh yeah, and I love your show, and I love that you guys do more than just Twin Peaks. That you guys talk about Fargo or just all TV.
Yeah, I really liked when you did your top 10 shows of the year.
Yeah, that was really good.
And it made me like when you guys talked about Atlanta and stuff. I'm like, oh, I gotta watch that. Like it made me think of stuff I totally forgot about came out, and you guys reminded me it existed and to watch it.
Well, thank you, because that's absolutely the reason that Scott and I started. First of all, we don't agree on nearly anything, so that always makes for a compelling show in and of itself. And then, in secondary, we always look at television as art.
Yeah.
Television has the capacity to move the culture of our country in a way that no other art form does. So it's super important.
Cool.
Totally agree. Yeah.
And Josh, I thought Scott was a big Twin Peaks fan, and it definitely seems like at least with this new series, you seem to be really into Twin Peaks.
Well, I'll be honest with you guys. I never watched Twin Peaks before I met Scott. So imagine, if you will, Scott Ryan. Imagine if that was your journey into watching Twin Peaks in the year 2009.
Wow.
So no hope whatsoever of ever seeing anything beyond Fire Walk with Me. The missing pieces weren't even on the horizon. This was literally a 22-year-old show that no one cared about really, except for, a few, maybe 30,000 people around the world, right? I'll be honest with you. It was super dated when I watched it, and my mind was still reeling from shows like Deadwood. I was obviously deep into Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead, and my appreciation of television was at a different place than the old Twin Peaks was. But when it came back, I, like you guys, like every other person in our Twin Peaks community, I was all in. And I got to tell you, I 1,000% love this show. I think it is going to go down in history as being one of the greatest shows of all time.
Wow.
Totally
cool.
agree, yeah.
And so you've been doing this skeleton key. Can you tell us how this came about and maybe explain for people who don't know what a skeleton key is?
Yeah, well, so first of all, it explains absolutely nothing. You're not going to come here and find out any of the mysteries. Look, I'm not John Thorne. I'm not Scott. I don't look at it as critically probably as most people do. You guys included with that, Dave Bushman for sure. But what I do very well in my own professional life is business analysis. So I take complex data sets and I make them simple so that even a CEO could understand it, which it's a small skill set, right? So when I got to part 3 of this return, and that was the episode with the Purple Lodge or whatever we're calling it, right? I thought, boy, I wish I had a cockpit with which I could see where Mark Frost's narrative is being deconstructed and then reconstructed by Lynch as he, builds these scene sets for us. So I set out to create exactly that, a tool for myself to try and understand what exactly was going on in this show.
Yeah.
So we can start from there. And so if you will, and it's very hard to describe this thing with words when you don't have it on the screen, but I'll do my best.
And for
Think of
people
a cockpit.
And just to let people know, you can go to the redroompodcast.com and you have the skeleton key there, and you've been updating it week by week, so people that want to follow along.
That's right. Yeah, it's actually the homepage and will be until Twin Peaks ends and probably about a month after that. So every part has its own page, but when you go to the Red Room Podcast, every major skeleton key that's been released, now 13 episodes, 13 parts, is in chronological order with links to the deep page.
Cool.
So if we could just take a black rectangle in your mind and imagine that you had a mixing board, okay? And picture David Lynch and Mark Frost standing over this mixing board. And I'm thoroughly convinced that Mark Frost wrote a linear script to this show and then handed it, to David Lynch and said, do what you're going to do. The only caveat is I have the final word because I've already published a book that takes place after this show. And there's going to be another one that comes after that because you need 2 last words when it comes to David Lynch, right? So I love this story already, right? And the idea that Lynch is going to take it, maybe throw out 20% of the script. I don't know, you just got to allow for that when it comes to David Lynch. He's going to second guess himself and change as he's actually filming things. So, with that in mind, we've got a completely deconstructed linear script that's essentially been Pulp Fiction, right? I think that's a consensus in the community now is that we've got multiple timelines, fractured scenes, loops that are going on within the same scene, just crazy things going on. Definitely. So how can we possibly put our arms around this thing? Well, my approach was to go part by part and break it down in terms of narrative, right? So, my history and training comes from a writing school. So I deeply appreciate Mark Frost's ability to kind of rein in David Lynch when it comes to story. And I do think we're telling a very, very rich story right here that's multifaceted. I mean, if I had to put a literary reference to it, I would say the closest thing is probably James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. Wow. It really is a work of art on a scale that's never been shown on television before. And the vitriol in some of the community is testament to that, right? So the idea of just breaking it down by narrative. So if we just take the first part, if we can all remember back to that first part, remember the first scene was Cooper sitting with the firemen, or the Giants as we knew him then. They're listening to that old style phonograph, right?
Yeah.
And that was scene one. It kicked off. So that's a narrative. Cooper, in my mind, I'm like, Cooper escapes. That's a narrative. And it turns out that as of the airing of part 13, we've now seen 3 hours, 20 minutes, and 42 seconds of that story of Cooper escaping.
Yeah. Isn't
So
that something?
just consider that. That's amazing. That's like, a Fire Walk with Me and a half that we've seen of Cooper coming back from the Red Room. So, we didn't even see the main storyline of that part one until about 32 minutes into the episode, which was the woman dying in Buckhorn and all of the things that happened. I mean, that was 21 minutes and 12 seconds out of that entire episode. But yeah, we didn't even see it until halfway through. So just juxtaposing those two things, you can see how David Lynch has completely obfuscated what the main storylines are in the show. And if you didn't have a tool like this, you would be almost lost at sea, like tossed around the ocean, just hoping that these images would coalesce into some type of meaning. Well, I don't like to do that. So I like to apply as much analysis as we can. Like, I'm not trying to figure out what's going on. I'm certainly not saying that this is an authority on what the mysteries are, or what even the secrets are in the show. But I do believe that we can, as a community, agree that this is the story being told in this scene. And then we can look at it over time to see how it changes and evolves, and sometimes merges and gets dropped, right?
Right. And it's definitely by looking through all these parts, I would say looking through all these parts, it definitely seems like the Cooper escapes, or the Cooper storyline, is the most important thing to the show, which I think we all know that anyways, but it's interesting to look through all this.
I think eventually a lot of these main storylines are going to converge. So ultimately, I think Cooper escaping, and Mr.C's plan, and the FBI finding Cooper, and Hawk is, missing something with the log lady. And to a point, revisiting, old Twin Peaks characters are all kind of the same story. And when we add all of those numbers up, that's like 60 to 70% of the show of what we've seen so far.
Wow. I also like how, like, in part 3, we have a lot of Cooper escape and a lot of Mr. C's plan. And then we look at part 13 and we have the same thing. So it's interesting to see through this. You say, oh, here's times where we're putting the major focus of the good and the evil together. I don't know. It's fascinating. What do you take from this? Like, by being able to look at this, have you seen trends, or are you taking anything away from this, or are you really just kind of recording this and waiting to the end to find out what happens?
Pretty much the latter, but you can pick out patterns in here. So especially in like the first, I would say 2 to 5, 2 to 6, you can see that Cooper's story is the predominant story of Mr. Cooper / Dougie, right, coming back. And Mr. C drops in and out. And one of the things I really like about this tool that helps me a lot is on a part-by-part basis, the large section over there on the left-hand side, you can actually see the dials that they're turning up and down. So, for example, in part 13, you can see that they actually turned the Mr. C has a plan narrative up 127% over average. So what that means is it actually adds up all of the minutes that took place in the previous 12 episodes, divides them by 12, and then compares them to the percentage of minutes that were taken during this episode. So we can really see these guys just kind of grabbing that dial and going, no, we need to turn up revisiting old Twin Peaks almost 200% in this episode, and we're going to completely turn down Shelley's Daughters with the Wrong Guy.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
I'm interested to see patterns, definitely, and when it's all said and done, to see the kind of patterns. But this is so cool.
Yeah, nice.
I'm glad you're explaining this, because the first time I looked at this, I'm like, what am I looking at?
Well, yeah, it looks crazy. Yeah, I mean, and it took me probably 2 to 3 weeks to actually nail down a system, and it's always changing. So like Hawk's map, it's a living document.
Yeah.
The next iteration I think I'd like to do with it is to kind of give small numbers to each of the scenes so that as a community, we can actually answer this question of timelines.
Huh.
So, in my mind, I'm picturing like Post-it notes that I could just lay out on the floor and say, this is the Mr. C's has a planned timeline, and that happened before this, and this happened before that. So we can really get like a 3-dimensional view of where these scenes are scattered when we can answer that question, right? There's not a whole lot of dates in the show.
That would be really cool. I know we were just talking about that. We were just talking about part 13.
Yeah.
And we were starting getting into it doesn't seem like it's in chronological order. I would even say, like, you look at Diane and she's wearing a green shirt and then a red shirt, and she kind of goes back and forth between parts. And it seems to me that they're out of order. So I would love it if you can do that with this, or if somebody can come up. I don't have the time to work it all out. But you're right. Even if we get a community, if we could find a way to say, as a community, can we figure this out? It'd be something.
Yeah, I always saw it as kind of a tool for the Reddit community. They're fantastic at just picking things like this apart. And there's some brilliant people out there within that community and within the Twin Peaks community in general. Look, all of us are smarter than one of us. That's for darn sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a nice job. You did an amazing job with this. It's really so cool. See, I mean, I love that it's color coded and it's very easy to read and figure out. And I sometimes think like, Dougie Cooper hasn't really been done much, but then to be able to spread this out and say, wow, he has been very involved throughout the parts. And like you said, especially the first 6 parts.
That's right. Yeah. And I also like to be able to look and see how much time has been spent on certain things. So a lot of people either complain or love the Roadhouse endings, right? Well,
yes.
That's been 25 minutes of our shows over 13 episodes has been dedicated to bands on the stage. And when you start to consider that, you can get a little bit angry, right? And say things like, why am I wasting that when I want to see when Cooper comes back? Or, the fact that, what I consider the Richard Horn is evil narrative has now taken up 35 minutes of all of the script. It's almost 5% of the show that we've watched. And so you compare that to what Audrey's gotten. She's only gotten 13 minutes on screen right now.
And that's something.
So,
wow.
It's sobering almost when you look at that. Now, the question marks, that's 2 things. That's obviously what happened in part 8. Nobody knows what that is.
Right.
We all have our suspicions, but nobody knows. It's a mystery. And the box. So that's the box where the lady calls the phone and the 2 lights blink. It could be the box that Cooper calls in the prison when all the lights flash.
Yes.
We're not quite sure. That's a hard cut. It may be a lie. I'm not sure.
Interesting. That's something.
Oh my God.
I was thinking, so you mentioned like the whole Big Bang, the Bang Bang Band or the, the Roadhouse music. It's kind of funny in a way that, in the old series, we would have these long openings. I don't know if they were 2 minutes long, but we used to have a long opening sequence that they did. They've kind of shortened that down. And then a lot of the parts end with long endings of the Roadhouse. So it's kind of, in a way, they've kind of flopped it in some ways. They've kind of say, hey, we're going to have our music at the end. But I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, if you think of it like a sentence, it used to be a capital first word in the sentence, and now it's just an exclamation point or sometimes a comma at the end of the sentence.
That's interesting.
I was actually going to ask you guys, what's top of your mind right now for Twin Peaks? Like, what do we need to be thinking about right now as we go into part 14?
Going into part 14.
Audrey, going into 14, I'm hoping we'll get some sort of cap to the Audrey story, or at least something that tells us exactly what is going on with Audrey. We all have our suspicions. Yeah,
what do you think is the worst thing that could be happening with Audrey? I'd love to hear both of your opinions on that.
I never even talked to you about the worst thing. Bryon, this is something I thought about. The worst thing is I'm afraid that she can be dead. I'm afraid that, like, she's like, I don't know, she's in the red room or she's in heaven or something like that. That's like my worst fear, that like she's not even alive anymore.
Well, wouldn't that, I think that would go with the fact, my worst fear is a theory we talked about. If she truly is in a coma.
Yeah.
And this is all playing out around her and she's subconsciously taking it all in, and this is all just inside of her head because she's just stuck in a coma. To me, that would be the worst outcome, because it's depressing that she's just laying in bed.
Hopefully she can wake up. I mean, there's hope that she can.
But we only have a few more hours left of the show, and I don't think that's going to happen. That would, for me, would be a heartbreak, is if we got to some ending, and it just shows her laying in bed in a coma.
Yeah, and it ends that way.
And ends
And Josh,
yeah.
how about you?
Well, so I kind of agree with you guys. So the first week she was out there, I would have told you, and I did tell many people, I don't believe the psychiatrist thing. I don't believe that, she's trying to play this out in her own head. But last week kind of threw that into a tizzy because the idea that she didn't know how far the roadhouse was, but yet it was a major point of focus. I mean, it's almost like someone is in a coma and they're hearing these conversations around them as nurses come in and out of the hospital room, and somebody got their truck stolen, and Tina's doing something. So it's like her brain could be assembling that, and maybe if Mr. C does come back into Twin Peaks, which I will submit that I believe he was the one that tried to run Trick off the road, that maybe that's a destination he's going to head to. It's some type of a permanent care facility where Audrey's been for 25 years or whatnot. That would be probably the worst thing.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
I guess especially with this last part, my other fear would be, what if this isn't Audrey? Like, she's saying she doesn't know who she is, and like, what if we turn out to be that isn't Audrey at all? It could be.
It's very Mulholland Drive.
Yeah,
this is very Mulholland Drive.
It could turn out to be Annie.
Oh God!
I know, but what if like I think is it Caroline and Annie that
they were both in intensive care at the same time, right? So Annie, we know from the missing pieces that Annie was wheeled into intensive care at the same time Audrey would have been there. And Mr. C spent a lot of time in intensive care. So, we don't know what he was doing in there. It's been intimated by Doc Hayward, but it was never said outright. And we just frankly don't know.
But
right?
Annie could have heard enough of Audrey's story, and maybe they were talking, and that she started thinking she was Audrey, and then we wake up.
Yeah, I know.
I don't want to think that way.
Yeah, let's not think that way.
Well, Josh,
it's such conjecture, right?
Yeah.
We'll be arguing about this for years and years, and I actually don't expect that there's going to be much resolution in this show.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know that we'll see a full Cooper come back.
That's devastating.
See, that's what
I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
I'm not okay with it.
I'm enjoying the Cooper in his life right now, and I was talking to Ben. I think we were talking about this off air, and I honestly believe maybe we'll see an awakening in Cooper near the end, because it's going to go back to Laura somehow. It's going to go back to the Palmer's house, and he's going to have to be there. But I don't know if he's going to be 100% the Cooper we know. He could still be in Dougie mode, for all we know. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm like, I've been a fan for 25 years, something plus, forever. And like, I don't know what's worse, having Twin Peaks back, or then bringing Twin Peaks back and getting him out of the Black Lodge, and then him still not being himself. Like, it's almost like he's still trapped. It's almost like he's still trapped in the Black Lodge because he's stuck in this state of not really there. So it's like, I don't know what's worse, that you have this zombie, you almost have a comatose Cooper that isn't functioning. So I think that would be devastating to me to wait this long and not have Cooper back. So I don't know. I wrestle with this.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Well, I tell you guys, this is why I think the show is already successful, like regardless of what happens at the end, because the story that I believe that's being told here is, let's just go back to the beginning. We had Twin Peaks, a town that has been, possessed and tortured by demons from the woods for a long time. Those demons are slowly moving closer into the town. When Laura Palmer dies, that's like the tipping point, right? It has invaded the most pure soul, quote, that, everyone has in their minds, right? And then we get this knight of light, Dale Cooper, who, carries as much goodness as darkness as he does, as he comes into town to, try to rescue the princess who's already died, by the way. I apologize for the dog. Rescue the princess who's already died. And he goes to face this mortal trial where, his love for Annie, his love for Laura, his love for the world and life in general is the thing that slows him down and allows the bad part of him to escape, right? And then now he's completely, I believe he's split, and we've got as good as Cooper was in the world, and he was, he chose the good. He was an agent for the good. Now we've got the equal component of bad out in the world for 25 years, who has started setting up from the beginning a way to subvert whatever system is in place with the Black Lodge, the Red Room. I think that's like a release valve, that 25 years that ensures, it's basically making sure that you don't kill all the chickens so they stop laying eggs. You could think of Garment Bosia as eggs. But Mr. C is so bad that he can possess Bob. Like, he can trap and hold Bob for 25 years. It's a good thing you're still with me, right?
Yeah.
And then suddenly Bob gets back out. We don't know what happens to him. I believe he re-entered the timeline with the bomb. I think that, Mark Frost gave this away in his book when he said that Jack Parsons went out to the desert a week before the Trinity explosion.
Yes.
And an eyewitness said that he called a fire demon. Well,
right, they were working on rituals. They were working on a ritual, the Moonchild. Yeah. So it was based on the book, The Moonchild stuff. So I agree with you. I like that whole idea that there's a ritual going on, and maybe that ritual opened up a gateway to let things out. And maybe the experiment and couldn't get out. But
so Bob and maybe this mother of horrors or whatever. And this was, by the way, a theory I heard by John Thorne on your podcast that got me thinking along this. And, when that bomb went off, who knows what it did? Did it rip open a door in time and space? Did it magnify the horror of Bob? Did it, whatever happened there, it was big enough that the giant immediately calls forth this golden orb, gold being the most pure, immutable substance in the universe, this golden orb that has the face of Laura Palmer. And did she re-enter the timeline as well? So all of that is there, while in the meantime, Dougie, who is the good version of Cooper, right? Pure good. So good that he's innocent, like a Christ child, right?
Yeah.
In the manger. He comes back into the world, and through his innocence, he actually lands in the worst possible place, which is the city of sin. Is there a worse place for sin than Las Vegas?
Yeah.
But just by his spiritual nature of being good and innocent, he actually changes the hearts and minds and spirits of the people around him, to the point where Bradley Mitchum has a dream and sees such goodness in this man, and has these images of a cherry pie, and he follows his heart to the point where he makes the right choice. And all of these people who were formerly bad are being converted, right? We just saw it last week with the confession with Anthony, right? Sinclair. And so he's amassing this army of light around him, which I believe will defeat the evil that Mr. C is conglomerating around him. We can see this happening in tandem.
Yeah.
Mr. C starting to gather all of these darkness, around. It's almost like The Stand with Stephen King.
Yeah,
right? All of these dark people are gathering around him, and all the light people are around Dougie. And if that becomes the cliffhanger at part 18, where all these forces converge in Twin Peaks, which we know is kind of this fulcrum of both negative and positive energy. Well, damn, boys, that's like the greatest damn TV show ever put on TV. Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, you're right.
Could it get better than that?
You can't get
I mean, Dougie's got the Mitchum brothers, he's got Candy and Mandy. He's got all these people on his side that are loving him. And now you got these
and he's done nothing.
Yeah.
He's spoken like 30 words.
I know.
Yep.
And all these people that he kind of helped, they weren't great people at first, but he seems like he did make them all better people.
Yeah.
They all we were talking about in the show that in a way they all got a heart. They all got
the courage.
Tony
got his courage.
We're back to the Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
Look at Janie E's smile.
Yeah.
Compare her smile and her heart and her spirit in the show compared to what we saw in part 3 when we first met her.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe that was part 4. I think it was part 4. So, if we don't get Cooper back, at the least we can watch what was the best part of Cooper spill out into the people around him, and maybe we have 300 Coopers that can help heal not only Twin Peaks but the rest of the world around him. Now, I'll be satisfied if that's the ending of Twin Peaks.
All right, you sold me, Josh. You sold me. That was a great pitch.
That was.
I see why.
I don't understand the negativity.
I
really don't. Like, you go out to some of these sites and people are just furious about this show. It can't move fast enough for them. And I'm like, guys, this is a meditation on good and evil at probably the most important time of human history to think about those things.
Yeah, you know, you got to enjoy the ride sometimes, and I think the instant gratification of a Netflix or something has definitely changed our viewing habits. And then here comes David Lynch saying, I'm going to give you an 18-part movie, and it's going to be at David Lynch's pace.
Yes.
We all, if you're a fan,
honestly,
you know what you're getting yourself into.
I do love that. I do love that he plays with the audience and he does his thing. And I actually love Kyle MacLachlan's performance. I think he's done an amazing job as Dougie, and he's done a great job as Mr.C. And I've been enjoying every moment of it. There's still just that part of me that's like, I want Cooper back. I want Cooper. But I love it every week. I've been enjoying it. It's been so good.
I mean, you want to have that nostalgia feeling to see the old Cooper, but
Sure. But you know, this show's not. The nostalgia is used against the viewer in this show. So if you approach this show through nostalgia, there's going to be pain involved.
Yeah.
Which, you know, given Mark Frost's penchant for theosophy and David Lynch's, you know, focus on meditation, that is a core tenet of many Eastern philosophies, including Buddhism. That the more you hang on to those things in the past, they actually become the anchors that weigh you down and cause pain and misery. So if that's a lesson we could all take, so be it.
Cool.
That's definitely interesting. I like that.
So, Josh, I wanted to mention the Red Room podcast, and I recently was listening to episode 135 where you had your son on the show with you, which I thought was a great show.
I did.
That is
Thanks,
so cool.
Man.
That is so cool.
He's super happy about how that turned out. And believe me, I was the most surprised because I've been trying to get him to watch Twin Peaks for like 2 years now. And he's pretty young, but, you know, I think he came to it at the right time. And boy, is he all in now, guys. He's building Lego sets. He's got the sheriff's department built. He's got the double R, and it got Scott's approval. Scott was over here yesterday and went through, and he's got all the little mini figures built out. And it's become an obsession, and you know what? Compared to what most kids are thinking about at 14 years old, I'm super proud of him. Right?
That's so cool. I have
awesome.
a son. He's only 9 years old. He wants to see Twin Peaks. I won't let him see it yet. I think I try to find little pieces like, okay, you can see the Red Room from the original scene. Yeah, I've seen some Log Lady, maybe intros or something like that. But he loves it. He loves that I'm very excited about it. And he only knows. Originally, he thought the Log Lady was the star of the show.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And she is. And
she always be. She will always be. But I thought, what a great show. And I know you guys just came out with the next show, too, where you guys are, I think, focused on 11 through 13 with
David Bushman on, that you guys have had on. Yep.
Awesome.
Oh, man, David's
Bushman. A great guest. We've actually known him for a few years, and he used to come on and just torture the crap out of Scott about Mad Men, because Scott's absolutely wrong about Mad Men. Don't even get him started. But you know, Bushman and I would always gang up on Scott.
Yeah.
I would say 90% of the time, but you know what? He likes it. He gets off on it. That's his thing.
We love you, Scott.
He definitely wants to go against the crowd. I love Scott. Yeah. You know, most people don't realize that Scott is a genius when it comes to television. Yeah. And he'll tell you about it every time you talk to him.
I think you guys are great. I think you guys are great together. And I really enjoy listening to you guys for years. I think, has it been 6 years, 7 years you guys have been doing your podcast for?
Yeah, almost 6 years.
6 years,
which is crazy. Yeah, that's crazy to think about. But it's really, you know, given both of us kind of this avenue, like you guys, to be able to share our passion with the community. It's been really good to us.
Yeah. So cool. I think we should try to get the gang back together when season 2 of Stranger Things comes back. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. We all got. We were
Josh.
all
Was Josh there on that?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember.
I was on it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It was so many people on that podcast.
It was a lot.
We were like, take a number when you want to talk.
I mean, next time it's going to have to be like 2 hours, and we're going to have to dedicate like 10 to 15 minutes for each person to talk. But hey, boy, that was fun though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was so much fun. Were we covering we were covering the whole show though, weren't we? Yeah, I think we were covering.
Yeah, the whole season.
Wow.
Yeah. It was after it was over.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A good time. We have to do that.
It's
only October, right? Halloween.
It comes out in October. We should definitely do it again.
Looks to be just as good.
Yeah, very, very excited for that.
Well, thank you, Josh, for your
life
time.
After Twin Peaks, guys. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I know. We were just talking about how quickly it's gone by.
And we got a month left. That's just
4 more Sundays.
Oh.
That's depressing.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's
one slipped away last week. Only 4. One more month.
Yeah, September 3rd is a 2-parter.
Well, you know what? I mean, I compare this to the time that we live in, like when Harry Potter was being published and you didn't know what was going to happen in the next book. You know, this is a moment in time. I think we're all enjoying it as much as possible. And we're going to have years and years to talk about and appreciate, and hopefully all these NDAs will drop so the actors and the writers can start to talk again.
Yeah.
I think we're going to crack open a whole new nut, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like Charles Dickinson had his own piece too, where he would do these small installations, and then even Stephen King years ago did the Green Mile, and it started off as these installations where you wrote like sections and stuff. It's funny, I never compared it to that, but it really is like that. That we're getting these parts. They're like, I mean, that's why they always say it's a movie, right? That we're getting a little section of the movie, and it will be fun to, when it's all over, to rewatch it again and get, you know.
I like the whole, we all get to experience this together, you know, because I was like behind, you know, I'm watching it and you guys all knew, a lot of people knew, and I like this, we're all in this together and enjoying the ride.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love for us all to get together and watch all 18 hours in a row, just rent out a theater or something like that.
That would be crazy.
How great would that be?
Bryon says that too. I feel so old. I'm like, I don't know if I could do it.
Well, here.
Oh, you know what? We would rally together to make sure, and you could sleep during it. It's fine. Sleep during the bang bang.
So this is a little piece of news I just heard. Showtime is going to air all the episodes Sunday leading up to the finale, starting at 4 a.m.
That's really cool.
And I was
holy moly.
Yes, and I'm thinking I could just wake up my normal time, put Showtime on, and just leave it on all day, and like leave it on in the background.
Right.
You know, you stop, you go, oh, I want to watch this part, or just have it going.
That's
and
cool.
it'll get you in the mood.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, and I wish that I agree though, Josh. I wish they would do a movie, and we talked about that. Originally, Showtime talked about them being in theaters. That there was talk about actually showing this in theaters. I think that would be awesome to actually be on a big screen, and we all could be there to hang out.
If we could watch the finale
Buddy,
in
if
the
I
theater,
could see part 8 in the theater,
I'd
pay $20 for that.
Yes, me too.
I know.
One other thing I'd like to mention to you guys, I don't know if you ever heard of these Philips Hue lights at all. You know, these lights that are they're LEDs that can change color.
Okay.
Well, they've got these now where if you put them in the room where you watch television, you can actually sync them up to the lights of whatever's on the screen. So I've done this during the past 3 episodes of Twin Peaks, and so just imagine like watching part 3 where he goes into the Purple Lodge and the lights just match. It's an experience that I would recommend for everyone. That's a good investment in the theater room.
That is wild. Yeah, I'm gonna check this out.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I'll send you some links.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's so cool. Do you want to tell people how they can follow you and about the Red Room Podcast?
Yeah, for sure. So redroompodcast.com is a great spot. At Red Room Podcast on Twitter. I'm at JB Minton on Twitter. And, you can find us all over Facebook. Bryon, Ben, Scott and I, Dave Bushman, John Thorne, we all travel in the same path. So also there's a new Facebook discussion group, the Blue Rose Task Force, that anyone is welcome to join. It's an open, positive community. Please feel free to drop in and definitely go subscribe to the Blue Rose magazine. Scott, John, Courtney, and Maya are just creating an amazing, an amazing piece of art for the fans that comes out three times a year, right?
Yeah, it's a great magazine. It's brings me back to the days of Wrapped in Plastic. Love it. It's a great magazine.
That's right.
Cool.
That's right. Guys, thank you for your show. Really love it, and it's been an honor to be on it.
Oh, thank you. Same to you. We love your show as well. We are Audie here. We'll be back next week. We're going to leave you with a nice little cover. Rabbit Troop Forever doing their cover of Just You.
Just you and I. Just you and I. Together.